Welcome back to my weekly stitch series, Leave the Week Behind for 2025. So we're going to talk about leaves that we stitched in September. There are 4 weeks in September, and we're going to be stitching weeks 36, 37, 38, 39. So let's get started. Here is week 36. This is on my wool project. I did a vertical row or vertical column of feather stitch, and I used a pearl cotton number 8, and then I finished this leaf off with some bullion loops. So let's get out my linen project and we'll get started. I've got my linen piece here. This is the leaf that I'm going to be stitching. I've chosen this Eleganza pearl cotton. It's EZM 62. It's a size 8 green tube. I think it's called Cutoff Shorts. Now I'm also going to be using a chenille 24 needle to start, because we're going to do the feather stitch first, and then we're going to switch over to a milliner's 3 needle. I've brought my thread to the top of my work, and just as a reminder, I am left-handed. This is how I do the fly stitch. If you need another tutorial, I would suggest searching on YouTube. You'll be able to find something. So I've come up to the top. I'm going to make this little fly stitch like this. And then I'm going to come across to this other side, to the right side of that fly stitch. I'm going to make another one. And then I'm going to come to the other side, and I'm going to alternate each side until I've worked my way all the way down the leaf, the center of the leaf. This is a really pretty thread and a really pretty leaf. Working with this linen, it's slippery, so it kind of slips off the table as I'm working along here. I have to keep pushing my fabric back up. So this is all you're going to do to make this stitch. We're keeping it kind of simple this week. And I love the way this thread color changes. It's very interesting. I'm going to do one more. And then I'm going to take my needle to the back of my work like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change to my milliner's needle, and then we'll do the bullion loops around the edge. Let's do the next step, and that is to do the bullion loops on the edge. So I've changed to my milliner's needle. I've brought my thread to the top of my work, and I'm going to take a little bite, and we're going to make it's basically a bullion knot, but it's a loop because we're going to add more wraps than normal. So to keep in mind, whenever you're doing this, here is the space that I have to cover for each one of these stitches, and we're going to basically overwrap. So I think I'm going to do 20 wraps for each one of these loops, and we'll see what it looks like. So I'm going to wrap 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And then I'm going to hold my wraps down in place with my thumb. And I'm going to pull my thread through. And it makes a little loop, just like that. And then don't forget, you're not finished until you take your needle to the back of your work. So it makes a little loop, just like this, okay? And I like to use the back of my needle sometimes to straighten those wraps out and kind of just swish back and forth and then straighten them out so they look nice. So now you're ready for the next one. So the next one is going to be right here, because you're always working away from yourself. Oops, hang on. Okay, got my needle rethreaded, so I'm going to come up to the top, just like this. I'm going to take my needle to the back and take a little bite. And I'm going to stitch, or I'm going to wrap 20 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And you don't want to wrap it too tight because sometimes that makes it hard for your needle to go through. Okay. Take my needle to the back of my work. I'm probably going to need to get some more thread. And there's the second loop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way around to finish this, but I'm going to do it off camera. And let's move on to the next leaf. Let's take a look at week 37. This is the leaf that I stitched for this week. I made these little bullion knot kisses. They're little X's, but I like to call them bullion knot kisses. And I also did a whipped chain stitch around the edge. So let's take a look at my linen piece. I've got my linen piece here. This is the leaf that I'm going to stitch. I'm going to be using this Eleganza Pearl Cotton. This is EZ 2147 and also EZ 2121. So we'll start doing the kisses first with our milliner's needle, and then we'll move on to the second part, the chain stitch. To make the bullion knot kisses, we're first going to make a base bullion knot. And all I'm going to do is bring my needle to the front of my work, and I'm going to make a bullion knot, and I'm going to stitch or wrap at least 10 to 12 for the bottom one, and then we'll increase the wraps for the next one. So I've come up here, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's do 12. Okay. So I've got the first part of it. Don't forget to take your needle to the back of your work to finish this stitch. Okay. And then you're going to turn your work, and we're going to do the next one in a cross, and we're going to go over the top. Just kind of eyeball where the X is going to go so you make it pretty. I think that will work. And we're going to make another bullion knot over the top of the other one, just like that. And I'm going to wrap it 14 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Hold on to your stitches. And you notice I don't let go until I've pulled them all the way as far as I can. Just like that. And it makes a little X or a kiss. Take your needle to the back of your work. And that's how you make the little kisses for this. So you're gonna fill in the entire leaf. I won't do it on film. You can do this on your own. And then we're gonna come back and do the outside. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next step, which is doing the whipped chain stitch. So I'm gonna go ahead and start my foundation of chain stitches. I've switched to my chenille needle, and I'm gonna make a chain stitch, just like that. Make sure you go into the hole of the previous chain stitch so you can chain them together. This. Make that one a little bit smaller because we're gonna come to the point here. So I'm gonna come to the point of this leaf here. And then I'm gonna turn my work and come around just like that. Go around to the other side. Just like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this off camera because you don't need to see me stitching a chain stitch. And then we'll come back and do the whipped part of this one. I finished the chain stitch around this leaf, and now we're going to do the whipped part of the whipped chain stitch. So to do this stitch, I've come up in between two of the chains here. I'm going to bring my needle to the front of my work, and I've changed to a tapestry needle. And I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go underneath this first chain, just like this. And I'm going to go and do the next one. And it makes this little, I don't know, twist. It's really pretty. And I'm going to keep going around. Let's see if I can't get a better view of this. And then you're just going to keep going all the way around until you've finished the whipped part. And as you can see, it's really a pretty stitch and so easy. And that's all there is for this leaf. Let's look at the next one. Let's take a look at week 38. This is the leaf that I stitched. We're going to do some turkey work. I know it's going to challenge some of you, but it's really a lot easier than you think. And after we do the turkey work, we're going to finish it off with some couching. And I used a size 3 pearl cotton for this. The thicker thread works really nice, and we're going to stitch some turkey work. So let's have a look at my linen piece. Here's my linen piece, and this is the leaf that I've chosen to stitch on. I've drawn a smaller leaf on the inside of my leaf here, and I like to use the Clover Blue water-soluble erasable pen. I really like this marker a lot because if I make mistakes, it's very easy to remove them. Just to give you an example, say I drew a line, I didn't like the way it looked, I can easily just tap it out to get rid of it. So that's why I like to use this marking pen a lot. So I've marked my leaf. We're going to be using an Eleganza Pearl Cotton size 3, and that is in the blue spool. And this is color Easy M75. And I'll also be using a Tapestry 18 needle to stitch this stitch. Let me start by saying that there's a lot of YouTube videos out there for turkey work, and I'm just showing you the way I do it. Somebody might have a different method that you might like, so I would check them out. But basically, when we're doing turkey work, we're going to do a series of loop stitches and tacking stitches or locking stitches. We want to lock that loop in place before we make the next one. And the easiest way to do that is bring your needle to the front of your work, just like this. And I'm going to go right back down next to it. I want to make sure I don't catch my knot underneath. And I'm going to make a loop, just like this. And I'm making my loops kind of high because I am going to trim the loops after, use my bunka brush, and we'll talk all about that. and make the next one. And I want to be able to shave it down quite a bit. I kind of work on that to do it how I like, or just to get the look I like. So I've made my loop here and I need to lock it in. So you need to do a smaller stitch right next to it to lock it in place. And basically all you're doing is doing a loop. You're going back down to lock that loop in place so it stays, it doesn't go anywhere. And then the next stitch, I'm gonna go on this side because we're making a leaf shape, so it is an odd shape. And don't worry about trying to go in certain rows. The biggest thing is you want to make enough loops so that when you do cut and use your bunka brush, you've got like this nap, like a little rug. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go right next to it, and I'm gonna try to do the same height for my loops, just like that. And then I'm gonna go and do a locking stitch right next to it and lock it in place, just like that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fill this entire leaf shape in with all these loops. And when I come back, I'll show you the next step. Okay, I've done all the loops here that I'm gonna do. And now I'm ready to cut the loops. So what you're gonna do is you're just gonna go in and cut the loops. And then we're gonna take our bunka brush and we're gonna fluff the fibers up. So what I'm doing is just going in, and each set of loops, I'm gonna pick it up here, I'm gonna trim. Just go in and make sure that I've got all of them trimmed. There's a few more in here. And just kind of move your fingers around and make sure you get all of them. I think there's just this last one. Okay, so once you've done that, you get to take your bunka brush. This is a bunka brush, or they call it a nap riser brush, and it's this little metal thing. And you're going to basically pull these fibers and fluff them up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take my brush here and fluff up these fibers. The next step is to trim your turkey work here, and I take my time with this. So I do a little bit at a time, and I just kind of trim it down to the height that I want. And I'm gonna just first start by just trimming off the top a little bit and around the sides. And I'm gonna this one little thread here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep basically grooming this thing till I get it to the height that I like. And what I'll do is I'll keep trimming, and then I will come back and I'll show you what it looks like after I'm really happy with the fibers and how they're laying. So I'm going to trim this a little bit more and I'll be right back. Okay, this is what it looks like after I've done all the trimming. It's all nice and filled in. It's kind of like a little carpet here. I think it turned out pretty nice. We're going to finish this leaf off with a couching stitch, but I will put a link to my website for the bunka brushes because I do have them in stock and you can get one. And let's move on to the couching. So to couch, we're going to use 2 threads, and I've kept my thread here, my needle threaded with the pearl cotton that I'm using. So to do the couching part, super easy, you're going to use 2 threads. So here I've got my lay down thread right here. Now, if it helps, you can put a little pin in place while you're couching to kind of hold your thread down, if that helps. You're going to take a second thread and you're going to come up just on one side of that pearl cotton, and then you're going to go directly on the other side and pull your needle through. Couching is you're just using a lay down thread. You're going to couch over the lay down thread with your second thread. You can use different colors if you like. I'm just using the same one for this leaf. And that's all you're going to do for this week. Let's look at the next week. Let's take a look at week 39. This is my wool project and the leaf that I stitched. We're going to be stitching a 7-spoke whipped woven circle. We're going to do some seed stitches, and then we're going to finish it off with some little fly stitches with really no legs at all. They're just going to go around the edge. So let's get out the linen piece and I'll show you how to stitch this leaf. I have my linen piece here. This is the leaf I'm going to be stitching. We're going to start with the whipped woven circle. I'm also using this Eleganza pearl cotton. It's EZM 1023. It's a size 8. I'm going to do the spokes with my chenille 24 needle, and then I'm going to switch to my tapestry needle. You're also going to need your Spoke Easy templates. You don't have to have them, but it really makes it easy to mark your spokes if you use your Sue Spargo Spoke Easy templates. I will link those in my website also. You're also going to need a marking pen for this particular template. The only marking pencil that you can use is the Soline 3-in-1. The reason why is because it's got a little tiny tip here that goes through the spokes easily. It's great because it comes in 3 different colors, and I use it a lot. So let me show you how to mark your spokes. So I'm going to mark my spokes here so that I can easily stitch them down. I'm going to start with the first center spoke, or the center, and I'm just twizzling my pen here until I make a mark. Let's see, yeah, you can see it. I'm using the white. I might have to change colors, but hopefully I'll be able to just do it with a white. Not a big fan of marking, but it just makes it easier if you can do it. So I'm going to go, and each one of these intersections here, because I'm going to do the spoke is going to be this big. The entire whipped woven circle will be this big. So I've chosen this mark as my guide, and I'm going to be marking them. And I'm going to go all the way around and mark each one of these so you can see. It's easy if you just like twizzle your pen. If you try to drag your lead across the wool, you can break the lead, and they're kind of expensive. So you want to preserve them as much as you can. Oh, I just marked the wrong spoke here over on that other side, but it doesn't matter because it will get covered up. So I think we've got it here, 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 here. There we go. So ignore this little spoke here. So this is my center, and I'm going to just lightly drag my lead across. I mean, this is really lightly because I want you to be able to see it. Normally, I wouldn't even mark a line. I would just go with the points. But I kind of want you to be able to see. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I want you to be able to see them. So I think you can see that. Okay. So let's thread up our needle and make the spokes. I like to start on the outside and work my way around the circle, but if you start on the outside, you don't have a chance of running into your knot on the other side. So I'm going to start on the outside. I'm going to take my needle back into the center. I'm going to do the same thing with the next spoke. I'm going to create the next spoke here. Oops, I just skipped a spoke. Look at that. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to go back and fill in that spoke that I just skipped. Okay. Okay, so I've got this spoke. I've got my spokes here, and you can either use the back of your needle or switch to a tapestry needle for the weaving part. But I'm just going to use the back of my needle. So you're going to come up in between two of the spokes really close to the center, like that. And to do the whipped woven circle, it's like you're going to be whipping over one of the spokes and going under the next one. So I'm going to go over this one and under the next one. And then use the back of your needle to push your weave as close to the center as possible. So I'm going to go over this one and under this one. So I'm already over in between, so I'm going to go over it and I'm going to go under the next one. Over this one, under this one. Pushing those weaves close to the center. Over the first one, under the second one. Over the first one, under the second one. Okay. just like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to continue going round and round until you fill in the entire circle. Now, if you wanted to customize it and you wanted to do just so many rounds and leave these spokes open, you could do that if you like. You could also add some French knots in between if you wanted to do that. There's different ways of customizing this, but I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the entire circle here, and then I will come back and show you the next step. Here's my finished whipped woven circle. One little tip that I have for you is to make sure that you fill in all of those spokes. Don't skip on this part. You want to weave as much as you can into those spokes so that there's no room left. So I really pack that in. So the next step is to make the little fly stitches that go around the leaf. And I've got my needle threaded here, and we're just going to do small fly stitches, and they don't have a long leg on them. So the idea is that you're going to just make these small stitches like this. Take your needle to the back of your work, close to the wool applique, and then work the next. And you're going to stitch that all the way around and finish off this leaf. And then you can do the seed stitches on your own. Those are super easy. I won't do those on camera because I know the videos are kind of long, so you can do that on your own. But as you can see, I'm just working, making sure I'm mindful of the small stitch that I'm making for these little fly stitches, just like that. There you go. That is September's leaves, and I'll be back to talk about October's. Here's the finished leaf. I've done the seed stitches, the fly stitches, and the 7-spoke whipped woven circle.